Hello everyone, welcome to another GodForge's video. It's Unbound Sage here, and recently Susie has announced a collab between Aaron and content creators. I am one of the content creators, right? I don't want to talk too much about that. It will not be on my channel. I'm not the one running it. I'm just brought on for, you know, my understanding of the lore and how much I've been invested into it. But the people who are going to be there, you're going to love it, right? So keep an eye out for that on the Fateless Discord, and you know, be sure to tune into that. And the big thing here you need to know is Aaron is the lead narrative director, and he is so interesting, and he has a plan. And when he says the lore is deep and complex, plain to speculate about, it totally is. We have just scratched the surface on what is confirmed. So today for you, I have a timeline of how we understand the events of GodForge from official sources. It's almost all straight from Aaron's mouth, right? We don't know a whole lot, but we know enough to ask good questions for this collab. We are taking questions from the community. You know, be sure to put your questions. The best place to put them, honestly, is the Fateless Discord in the lore discussion, right? Other than that, you know, put it in the comments of this video too. That's fine as well, right? I'll make sure they get to who they need to get to. With that, let's get started with the timeline. So, before the Shattering, all realities, war on Earth, but you know, all the myths are true, right? So you know, all the realities, all the realms, like for Aru, yeah, Ra created the world, right? You know, for the Olympus one, however the world was created there, that's how it was created. And for Avalon, Avalon's a real place there, right? Like the Knights of the Round, it all happened. Whatever that world needs to look like for those myths to work is there, right? But they were separate, right? And so we see that kind of here, right? So every, you know, think of 9 realms, right? They're not alternate realities. They kind of were, but they were all connected by this nexus, right? So nexus is kind of at the center of realities, and then you have these like branching realms that did not interact with each other, and if they did, and like very few knew about each other, right? It's very separate, right? And then GodForge takes place after all of the myths. We know that from one of the podcasts, right? And we also know that more realms can manifest, so there will be others, but right now there are 9, and in this nexus, this is where the ether well was. Now the ether well is the source of the fires of creation, and we know that at least the Primal Powers used this. We don't know who else used it, but at least the Primal Powers did. Okay, cool. And then Gilgamesh shatters the ether well. This is from first off, you guys have not seen the trailer for GodForge, go watch it. I'll put it in the description below. I'll put everything in the description below. I'll put the Fateless Discord. I'll put the videos and the sources here. But we know that it shows 2 events. It shows a battle between Ra and Brynhild. It shows Gilgi smashing the ether well. Now the fight between Ra and Brynhild is more interesting and more of the focal point. But from a lore standpoint, Gilgamesh smashing the ether well is much more interesting. So just keep that in mind. This shattering did something, right? Oh yeah, first of all, how did Gilgamesh get there? Because this is at the nexus of realities. Gilgamesh should have been in the Icar reality, and you know, there is a take here that we know Aaron said that all of it takes place after the mist. Gilgamesh is dead. So, you know, that's not confirmed or not, but like, I think it's very reasonable to say that Gilgamesh should be dead. So why is he here, right? Maybe he's not. Maybe it takes place in a realm where Gilgamesh never died, right? You know, it's this alternate reality stuff. They're gonna do their own stuff with the gods, but you know, my leading theory, and you know, is that Gilgamesh was dead, right? And that's interesting. I need help getting there. This bird has been surprisingly a thorn in our side. The leading theories is that it is either Odin or it is Morrigan from Avalon lore. You know, people have different. I think it's Odin, right? I think that makes the most sense for me. but I mean, people have made very interesting cases for Morrigan. So either way, right? But reality was shattered. Yeah. And so this thing above my head here, it says the Nexus was also pulled back together. We see this in the Birth of the Scion video. We see the realities are shattered, and we have who we know as Destiny pulling them back together. But they are not as they once were. They are significantly weaker. And we know from the Sentinel video that this place sucks to live in. There is a wise old man lamenting the shattering in that video, right? So let's talk about how it kind of feels to live there, right? So there are 9 realms. They're not crammed together. It's realities that are no longer separate. And sometimes parts phase in and out of each other naturally. And those are called rifts. We also know that gods can create rifts between the worlds at will, very powerful ones. So like, you know, think of your Zeus and Ra level. We don't know where that cutoff is. We don't know if like, hey, can all the gods of Mount Olympus make realms or make rifts? Or can only like the higher gods like Poseidon, Hades, like Zeus level, right? Or, you know, we don't know the range, right? But, you know, for the story and how the world currently is after the shattering, right? Here are the realms that we're going to do the story for. And this, I think Riven is going to be a key part here. And then Aaron has said he's going to talk about realms and explain what Riven is on the next podcast. And then here we have Morrigan, right? And people, you know, think that this is pretty strong evidence that Morrigan is the one that caused the shattering. However, my counterpoint is to that, right, is that Avalon is the first one. This could just be the Avalon opening, and she could be the main antagonist for the Avalon realm. And, you know, and it's not in alphabetical order, right? So there is a particular order to these realms. And so I'd make the argument that this is neither proving nor disproving any arguments about the shattering, right? This is most likely a cutscene for the campaign. Anyway, let's continue. I'm trying to defend my theories. This is going to be objective, but no, I think it's Odin, right? And maybe I'll make a video about that theory later. But anyway, the shattering did present an excellent opportunity to settle scores, right? We know that right away there's a lot of fighting after the shattering. Like, this world just gets pieced back together and gods just go back at it. We know that the Aru and Almeicon, which is the Egyptian and the like Mayan, they go at it because of the War of the Pyramids. You know, the Egyptian pyramids are bigger, but you know, maybe that caused a war. You know, they are still antagonistic to each other, right? And then we can see here when the refs core, the inhabitants of one realm can sometimes accidentally summon to another realm should then shenanigans occur. So we know, we talked about these rifts, they happen naturally as well. And then we know that powerful gods can actually just make the rifts, right? So, you know, they happen naturally, they happen with gods as well. And then we also know that there's a mysterious council of shadows where underground gods are keeping an eye on the realms, and we don't know why, right? I have a theory about why. I'll share that later. I want to try to keep this video objective. Maybe I'll release a video about that, right? And really dive into that. The thing I said in the Discord is, how frustrating is that for Destiny? She just puts the worlds back together and gods found new people to fight. And that's why she made the Scions, right? And these, okay. So now this broken world has been fighting each other, right, for 100 years. There is a 100-year gap between the shattering event and the Scion being created, right? So this is us. The Scion is us. The Scion is not all powerful. The Scion isn't equal to the gods. They have just discovered their power, right? Part of the journey is the you know, what to do with power, right? That's gonna be the central theme of GodForge, right? We know that there's a space in the nexus of realities called the Sanctum that was created for us, right? And you know, it's not in the realm, it's in this nexus, right, that, you know, got remodeled for us basically. And so yeah, and she's done a lot of other stuff for us. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. And you know, more about the Scion here. The Scion, each player is a Scion from an alternate universe. and we can travel between the realms. And what makes us as strong as the gods is the ability to use the GodForge. Now, the GodForge is what Destiny has stitched back together the Ether Well. So there's this weird point where we don't know when the GodForge was made. So we don't know if it was right after the Shattering or like right before she made the Scion. But the Ether Well may have been MIA for some time, right? And that's something that I'm interested in asking Aaron is what what happened to the Ether Well in that 100-year time span, right? I think that is very, very important to understand the timeline of the story. We make copies of the gods called avatars, and that's actually our collection, right? We haven't explored a lot between the Scion and the avatars. They do have the personality of the gods, but like, can they disobey us? Can they fall in love? I'll let you read this as well, but this is what makes us on power with the gods, right? It's we are not powerful. We have the ability to use the GodForge, and that's what makes us powerful, right? So we're probably not chucking lightning bolts ourselves. Makes sense for a hero collector, right? We have the ability to be like this one-man army, and that kind of catches us up on the GodForge timeline that we know about, right? So with that, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is order and chaos. This is not good and evil. They are opposing forces that most likely caused the Shattering, and they seem to be doing nothing to restore the world. This is the biggest mix-up I see when people are talking about the lore. They are opposing forces. They are like fire and water. So when you have fire in balance, you can cook food, you can heat your house. But when it's out of balance, it burns your house down, right? Same thing with like water, right? Water is like, you drink it to live, and you can use it to clean, right? But then out of balance, it like floods stuff, and makes it bad. And so like, that's how you should view about it, is like, it's too much. There's too much of both. And remember that the alignment for gods, order and chaos are two of the primal beings, the third one being Destiny. Order and chaos have their own agenda, and while every character in the game has an alignment to one of these, it's not two big sides. It's better to think of the world as a big battle royale where every god's trying to do their own thing. And I think it's probably safe to say that most of them don't have a loyalty, right? I think they're all trying to do their own thing, and it might align to order and chaos. And Aaron says this here. There's no absolute loyalty, though gods of order can serve the interests of chaos and vice versa. This is a madhouse. I cannot be overstated how much of a madhouse the current state of affairs are before the Scion comes in. And that's why restoring the balance is not an easy task. It's not like, oh, we tell chaos to stop being chaotic, we tell order to stop being so strict. Like, no, there's so much more going on here. I think the best example here is we have Anubis aligning with chaos. I imagine this is a light alignment. This is a very soft alignment with chaos, right? Because Anubis is a character that very orderly, right? They have a finite test that decides if you go to, if your soul is worthy or not, right? And that sounds pretty orderly, but yet they're aligned with chaos. And I think the reason for that is, I think this goes to prove how unstraightforward the alignment system is, right? So the biggest thing you need to take away from here is a character's alignment is best thought of as a game mechanic. It is not really a lore tidbit, because it doesn't really tell you what that character's trying to do. So, that's just the thing I wanted to get off my chest, and just basically whatever you say about chaos, you have to say about order as well. They are, it takes two to tango, it takes two to fight, and both of them are a problem, So with that, I think that catches up all the official lore. Like I said, I have videos, I have like 2 or 3 about lore speculations that go into deeper details, taking this information and, trying to say ways that the story could go in interesting ways. But regardless, I will catch you guys next one. Make sure that you post your questions below, put the questions on the Discord, and then keep a lookout on the Fateless Discord. I guess the GodForge's Discord now. Keep a lookout on the GodForge's Discord for the announcement for when the Q&A video drops. Until then, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.